You got a revision again? How many rounds? 4? 5? What? Are you kidding me? Okay, let's get this right. If you do a really good job at the revision stage, you will get your paper accepted with 1 round of revision. 1 round. I mean, think about it. Reviewers are not paid for going through your paper. They don't benefit from prolonging the process for you and adding to their own misery. They just want to make sure they have done a decent job so they can add this proudly to their CV. And if they get lucky, the editor-in-chief see their dedication and invite them to join the editorial panel. So you may be wondering, why do we even do the unpaid labor? Because this is academia, my friend. That's how it works. We need to check those boxes off on our annual report to get promoted. And yes, it's dumb. But I'm not going to get into the long debated topic of why the highest educated layer of the society is still not paid well enough and why do they do the work pro bono. Here in this video, we're going to get our heads down and get into the business of revision. So we make sure you clear everything in your first round and you don't get trapped in the revision loops. Revision is by far the trickiest part of the story of publication. You have worked so hard to collect those results. You put so much energy and effort into crafting your papers. You took so long to find the right journal. You have waited too long to finally get a positive response from them. All this drama just to lose the paper at the revision stage? Nope, I'm not gonna let that happen. I'm not gonna let you. But in reality, this is what happens far more frequently than we want to see. Inexperienced authors handle the revision poorly. They get a minor revision, a doubtful second revision, followed by a major set of comments, and eventually editors give up on you and suggest rejection. Some journals even have the policy to reject the papers if the authors fail to satisfy the reviewers' comments in 3 rounds of revisions. They don't have the eternal time to waste on your paper. So here is my warning for anyone who is stepping into the holy land of academia. Don't you dare to mess up at the revision stage. You are almost there. In this video, I'm going to walk you through every single step of the revision so you can put things together in a package that's done professionally, diplomatically, and with a sprinkle of emotional intelligence, because guess what? On the other side of the equation sits humans too. Yes, they've got feelings and emotions. Hold on a sec. Have you subscribed to my channel? You haven't? Pause right here and do it right now.
Be afraid of the day that I'll be your reviewer or even worse, your editor.
Just joking. But no, seriously, go subscribe. Responding to the reviewer's comments is not a single task. It's a sequence of deliberate steps. And when you follow these steps carefully, they help you establish credibility, show your professionalism, and yes, they'll get you a sweet acceptance you've been waiting for too long. As part of AAA, we hold revision clubs whenever a member of our community requests them. Victoria's paper is one example. Victoria is an expert in her field with a long-standing reputation and publication track. She joined AAA when she decided to explore a new area of research, and she needed support to position herself in the new field as strongly as she had in her original area of expertise. We formed a revision club for one of Victoria's papers, analyzed comment by comment, section by section, and the results, sweet acceptance. This is just one example for many of the success cases we have within the AAA champions. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the steps you also need to take to clear this off successfully. And here is the heads up. Stay to the very end of this video because I'm going to show you a few important tricks to avoid disastrous consequences, one that has saved many of my mentees' papers from rejection. Before you write a single sentence in response to the reviewer's comments, read the comments multiple times. Do not rush into responding the comments. And remember, reviewers are scientists from all over the world. 85% of the scientific community is non-English speaking, and they might not always have the best skills in expressing themselves. For that reason, reading the comments multiple times and really understanding what the reviewers exactly want you to do become a critical part of a revision process. There's nothing worse than realizing you were wrong in what you assumed the reviewers expected of you and then figuring out that you misunderstood the comments 5 days before the submission deadline. So read the comments carefully, please. Okay, now let's get started. First, responding to the reviewer's comments is a very delicate part of the revision process. This is why I always emphasize addressing the reviewers with capital R, because it signals respect. And respect is something very important that you have to understand from the very beginning. I mentioned this already, but it's worth repeating. The reviewers community is not paid for doing this job. So first and before anything else, you have to respect them. You have to show your appreciation for the work they have done. You also have to understand something about yourself. You do not need to guard your work. You certainly do not need to fight back with the reviewers. You have to calm yourself down, center your approach, and talk about the science. Think about science behind the words, not necessarily how you feel about every comment or how offended, angry, or frustrated you might be. Emotions don't have any place in this story. You're working from the place of pure logic. This is very, very important and something you really want to do genuinely, not playing a role or faking it. You're genuinely appreciating the work of the reviewers because with full honesty, you will reach a point where you receive 10 or 15 of these invitations per day in your inbox, and most of the time, you don't want to accept any of them. But you know, you have to, because you want to contribute to the state of the art, to the growth of the scientific community. So if you are doing it, it's from a place of pure goodness of the heart. Understand that. Understand the position of the expert community and the time and the expertise they are freely giving to you, and be super, super appreciative of what they're doing for you. So it's also crucial for you to understand that not all comments should be treated the same. One big purpose of reading all the comments from the start to finish before you begin addressing them is that it allows you to actually code them. You can color code them or give them certain labels, which comments are easy to address, which ones are mostly labor work and not really intellectually complicated. Things that are straightforward or even take time, but they are easy to address. Then you go ahead and mark the comments that seem impossible to do. Things that are beyond expectations, things that you didn't see coming, or that do not necessarily contribute to the revision or to the mission of your paper. This is important because once you've done that, you can start addressing the comments that you handle easily, while in the background you're thinking about, okay, what should I do about the comments that I don't really have the opportunity to address? So when you see a comment that does not necessarily contribute to the paper, or it's a pure misunderstanding, or it doesn't add value, or you're seriously wondering, why are they even asking you to do this? Because it's clear that you've already done the work and you're providing enough evidence, that's where you have the opportunity to negotiate. Not argue, negotiate. You never want to refuse from a place of reaction. You don't want to respond offensively, but you can negotiate with the reviewers in a very polite and diplomatic manner in order to move forward and get clarity on the revision. So this is my biggest recommendation here. Never, ever, ever refuse outright to do the experiments or extra steps that the reviewers is asking you to do. Never argue emotionally. Never respond defensively. 90% of the time, and I really want to make this clear, you want to address the reviewer's comments. You don't want to say no too frequently. You don't really have the luxury to do that. But if you do have to say no, then you have to offer an alternative. For example, if they ask you to do a special experiment, a special process, or a special type of analysis, and you're really convinced that it doesn't add value, you should never say, this is unnecessary. Instead, you can explain that this question has already been studied within the state of the art. You summarize the findings from the literature, you support that with references, and you indirectly explain that this has already been extensively investigated. Or if they ask you to do an analysis that you don't have access to, maybe the facilities are not available, maybe it's too expensive, maybe certain instruments are not simply available in your country, you can explain that with full transparency, and you can propose an alternative test or an alternative approach that can still produce reasonable and meaningful results. Something that makes sense to the reviewers, something that still contributes to the work. That's what you want to show. In any case, you don't want to oppose the reviewers. You always want to acknowledge their knowledge. You acknowledge their contribution. You acknowledge that they understand the field and their comments are essential. You make it clear that you understand the feedback is coming from a place of contribution. I want to open a parenthesis here because there is a nasty practice that has unfortunately become more common. Sometimes reviewers try to abuse their position. I'm telling you not to argue with the reviewers and not to oppose them directly. But what if they ask you to do something unethical? For example, if a reviewer asks you to cite 10 papers, and when you check them, you notice that the same name appears on all of them, and it becomes clear that the reviewer is trying to inflate their own citation record. In this case, you do not argue with the reviewer. You do not confront them. Instead, when you submit your revision, there's a section where you can actually leave comments for the editor. This communication is not visible to the reviewers, but the editor can see that. And there, you can raise your concerns directly with the editor. You can explain that you're concerned that these references are all authored by the reviewers and the request does not seem reasonable. So again, do what the reviewers ask where possible. Don't argue with them, don't create conflict, but if there is a serious ethical concern, take it to the editor. This is one of the most critical principles of the entire revision process. You want to send back a revision package that allows the reviewers to go through all the changes in a matter of minutes. Every single change you make in response to the reviewer's comments must be clearly and precisely indicated. That means the exact section numbers, page numbers, line numbers, highlighted text in the manuscript. For example, a statistical analysis has been added to figure 5b, page 31, and further described on page 12, lines 14 and 15. Now, as a reviewer, when I go to your figure 5b, I want to clearly see where you added something, not just in the figure itself, but also in the highlighted section in the figure caption that carefully describes figure 5b. And then when I go to page 12, I want to see the line numbers already added on the side of the page, so I don't have to bring my magnifying glasses and count the lines one by one to reach to line 14 and 15. And God forbid, if you made a mistake in the line numbers, then I, the reviewer, will hate you. And don't I have all the rights to hate you? So get crystal clear with your revision. In the AAA, we have a slogan. I even want to design a t-shirt and send it to every single member of my community. Make reviewers' life easy. Yes, I want to print that on a t-shirt. Make reviewers' life easy. This is the one job you have at the revision stage. This allows the reviewers to verify your response within seconds. And it is not the reviewer's responsibility to search through your revised manuscript to find the changes. Sending back a revision without clearly indicating where changes were made is perceived as disrespectful and very often results in the manuscript being returned for further revision. So ask yourself, if I were the reviewer, how easily could I verify the changes? Another parenthesis. Yes, I'm starting to like this thing, parentheses. Okay, this is the golden rule. When it comes to revision, less is more. Don't make your response long. The more details you add, the more reasons you give to the reviewers to find issues. Stay focused. Answer exactly what they ask. Nothing more, nothing less. You don't want to invite trouble into your life, right? Most of the details belong to the revised manuscript, not in the response letter. Avoid dragging things in the response. Be brief. You will thank me later. By the way, have you ever wondered what a response letter actually looks like? Inside the AAA, we have multiple templates: blind response, double-blind response, table format, text format, and multiple guides on how to address the reviewer's comments and how to diplomatically disagree with them. All of this is part of the revise and publish phase of our training. So if you've been stuck in the endless revision loops, you can book a free call and join AAA. We even hold revision clubs whenever you request them, where we analyze every single one of your responses before you send the revision back to the journal. Okay, let's move to the last steps and a few lifesaver tips. Your response to the reviewer's comments function as a new type of cover letter, and it should be addressed to the handling editor, not the editor-in-chief. And I want to explain why you have to be mindful of this, because this is critical. Imagine, I'm working for a journal. You submit your manuscript, and of course, your initial cover letter is addressed to the editor-in-chief. Then the editor-in-chief receives your submission and identifies which editor is the most qualified person to take care of this submission. From that point on, it's my responsibility as the handling editor. I have to find the reviewers, I have to convince the reviewers to accept the invitation, I have to chase them when they are late, I have to read all their comments, I have to summarize the comments and send them back to you. And then when you send your revision back, it's me again. I have to go through every single response you have provided to the reviewers, evaluate how you handled the comments, and decide whether the reviewers' concerns are addressed or not. So this is a lot of work happening at the level of the handling editor, not the editor-in-chief. Just because the editor-in-chief is the big boss of the journal doesn't mean that you should communicate with them all the time. Your point-by-point revision letter should be directed to the handling editor. It's perfectly fine to also include the editor-in-chief's name, but always put the handling editor's name first. So Who is the handling editor? It's the name you see at the bottom of the decision email. The email you receive with the reviewer's comments is typically signed by the handling editor. If you don't see a name, then yes, go ahead and address the revision letter to the editor-in-chief. That's fine. But if you see the name of the handling editor at the end of your email, then this is the person that you should be addressing your revision to. So what does the response document must include? The manuscript title, the reference number, a clear statement that you've addressed all the comments carefully. Each reviewer's comments should be copied and pasted exactly as written, answered individually, followed by your response to the reviewer's comments in italic or in different colors, blue or green. For example, the authors appreciate the reviewer's comments based on the suggestions. Figure 1 has been revised to improve clarity. Page 8, lines 10 to 18. Now, here is the fun fact, and this happens far more frequently than you want to believe. Reviewers make mistakes. They have grammatical errors, they have typos, and the very fact that you don't know who they are gives them the liberty to loosen up a little bit, which is not professional, but anyway. If you see grammatical mistakes or errors in their comments, do not correct them. This is not your job. You must copy and paste the reviewer's comments exactly as they were sent to you. Editing their comment is not a professional thing to do, and it can also be perceived as pointing out their mistakes. Would you really want to mess with your reviewers? Seriously? I don't think so. So never correct your reviewers' grammars or wording, even if it contains error. The only acceptable modification is numbering the comments if none were provided. Clarity and structure in this document reflects your professionalism as an author. Before submitting, review the entire package very carefully. Your revised manuscript should be clean and consistently formatted. Use highlighting, not track changes, unless the journal explicitly asks you for track changes. Track changes can typically make the documents extremely heavy and unbearable to read or even to process. So unless you're strictly advised to use track changes, don't use them. Just go with highlights and don't use aggressive colors like red. Use blue, green, yellow, whatever, but not red. Make sure that your final draft is clean and tidy on both sides. The point-by-point response to the reviewers, the revised manuscript. Take the time to check all the details. Make sure the point-by-point response has the correct page number, the line number, the references. Again, make the reviewers' lives easy. Also make sure you get rid of any internal communications between yourself and the rest of the group. There's nothing less professional than leaving the track changes comments like, hey, did you add reference 11 here? Whether it's between the co-authors, between the student and the advisor, this is a sign of carelessness. Never good. Never, ever good. When you're done with everything, make sure you double check the revised manuscript carefully. Go through the point-by-point response and check all the details. Make 100% sure that all your indications for the sections, pages, line numbers, etc. are correctly reflected, and you won't get the reviewers lost. Check all the figures, tables, captions, supplementary material, references, and by the way, on this last note, the references. If you're adding references as a result of the revision, not only must you highlight them inside the revised manuscript, but you must also mention them explicitly in the response letter. For instance, additionally, a few references were added to the revised manuscript to support this claim. References 15, 21, and 27. And again, when I, as the reviewer, go to your manuscript, I should see these references highlighted in whatever color you have chosen. Something very important about the highlighting strategy. If you have received the second revision request, keep the original highlights. Use a new color for the additional changes because this demonstrates transparency and clearly shows the extent of the work that's been completed. As the corresponding author, this is your responsibility to ensure that the final version is clear, professional, and ready for evaluation. Also bear in mind that in a second round of revision, it's a very important thing to keep the previously highlighted sections. Why? First, there might be a new reviewer assigned because one of the previous reviewers did not agree to review your manuscript. Then the new reviewer needs to see the work that was previously done. Second, even if the reviewers are the same, you still keep the previous highlights. If your first round was highlighted in blue, then keep the second round highlighted in green or yellow, whatever you choose, but keep the previous highlight. As a reviewer, when I look at your paper again, the second round is essentially a sign of tremendous work, showing how much work you've already put into addressing the comments and actually promotes a favorable decision instead of rejection. Here's one super tip that you should always keep in mind as the ultimate alternative. Sometimes a reviewer asks you to explain something that you genuinely don't know how to explain. For example, they ask you about a behavior in your data. You observe the phenomenon, but you don't understand why it's happening. If you can reasonably dig deeper and explain it, go ahead and do it. But if you realize that answering this probably would require a whole new set of experiments, basically another paper, then there is a very smart way to handle this. You can identify possible causes, you go to the literature and you see who else has observed similar phenomena and what explanations have been proposed. Then instead of conducting new experiments, you can explain that the observed behavior could be due to or might be related to or might be the result of certain mechanism supported by the references. Use clear language. This could be due to, this might be explained by, this may result from, and don't stop there. You then add that thorough examination of the phenomenon and its potential causes is subject to further investigation and can be presented as a separate study. This puts you in the safest possible position when it's genuinely difficult or impossible to go deeper into a specific point the reviewer is focusing on. Responding to the reviewer's comments is not about defending your work. You're not going to war, you don't need armors. It's about demonstrating clarity, professionalism, and respect. When reviewers can easily follow your responses and immediately locate every single revision, the evaluation process becomes smooth and more efficient for them and for you. In the AAA revision clubs, we dedicated 2 to 3 hours of space, sometimes even more, to go through the reviewers' comments one by one and to check your revised manuscript in detail. We help you arrange the revision in a way that it's professional, highly diplomatic, and grounded in good scientific practice. Reviewers and editors are part of this big family called the scientific community, and their main intention is to help science move forward. If you want structured, calm, and unlimited support with your revisions, you can apply to AAA and get access to the revision clubs. You'll also have access to on-demand support and to all the past recordings of the revision clubs we have held for the AAA family. And if you're watching this, but you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that straight away. Your subscription signals to YouTube that the message of this video is relevant and it helps this channel to reach a larger audience. This is Prof. Samira Hosseini. Stay sharp, stay optimistic. You got this.